Today's hearing was called with the intention of following up on Secretary Kerry's and Administrator Shah's testimonies at the full committee in March and in early April, but with an exclusive focus on South Asia. This will give members the opportunity to ask more specific questions, both about the fiscal year 2015, the proposed budget, as well as U.S. strategy throughout the region. South Asia continues to be the source of many of the most critical challenges to U.S. national security and will likely continue to be in the future. Straddling the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, and the Java and South China Seas, South Asia bridges a world fraught with political uprisings and civil strife to one that will help to drive global politics and the world's economy. The region encompasses the world's largest democracy, the second most populous nation, one of the poorest countries in the world, and a booming youth populace making up nearly 70% of the region's entire population. As the center of the Indian Ocean sphere that extends from the Middle East to India and south to Indonesia, South Asia is a subregion in need of strategic stability. The challenges there are multifaceted and incredibly complex. Nearly every country that we will discuss today, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and the Maldives, is trying to lift its population out of extreme poverty, trying to foster greater economic development, and fighting to eradicate transnational terrorist threats. As a result, the fiscal year 2015 budget must focus on enhancing economic openness, improving political freedoms, and promoting democratic governance. I'm troubled by the fact that 80% of the budget for South Asia is earmarked by solely 3 presidential initiatives: the Global Health Initiative, Feed the Future, and Global Climate Change programs. This leaves very little room for responding to the unexpected. We cannot ignore the broader national security threats this area of the world faces, especially its growing susceptibility to extremist groups. While Afghanistan may not be within the jurisdiction of this particular subcommittee, the impact of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan this year certainly remains one of the most immediate challenges facing the South Asia region. There are enduring fears that if the withdrawal is not handled well, the long-term victim will be regional stability. While one of the Administration's priorities for assistance in the region is advancing economic integration with its new Silk Road programs, the U.S. also needs to find a way to navigate the ongoing economic and security transitions in Afghanistan with balancing Pakistan and Indian interests. The U.S. has been encouraging India to take a greater role in Afghanistan, and India has listened by cultivating strong ties there. But Pakistan is fearful of those ties, creating a precarious balancing act. How elections in Afghanistan and India will impact this relationship and future stability in the region remains to be seen. South Asia is also in the midst of a potentially region-wide political shift. By midsummer, nearly every country in South Asia will have completed nationwide elections over the past year: Bhutan, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. That's a tremendous opportunity for change, good and bad. As we saw in Bangladesh earlier this year, the rivalry between its major political parties left the country in complete turmoil, and I happened to be there some months back and met with both of the leaders there. Rival factions held Bangladesh's democratic process hostage, initiated protests that killed hundreds of people, and wreaked havoc on the economy. This resulted in a sham election in which only 10% of Bangladesh's 154 million voters participated. One must be concerned, I believe, about the long-term impact of this ongoing political quagmire. Bangladesh is a nation we have extolled as the region's moderate, tolerant, and democratic partner in our fight to end violent extremism. One can only wonder how the current state of political instability in the country will affect that role. I know Assistant Secretary Biswal has traveled to Bangladesh and has spent a great deal of time on the current state of affairs there, and I hope we can discuss the situation in some detail during this hearing. In Sri Lanka, we continue to be frustrated by reports of human rights violations, religious intolerance, heavy-handed military presence in the northern region, and failure to integrate the minority Tamil population into government and police agencies. Most recently, we have heard the government's intention to scrutinize funding received by NGOs. I hope our witnesses this afternoon can focus on how U.S. assistance to Sri Lanka is benefiting the current situation and what, if any, plans the Administration has to adjust our programs accordingly. Finally, let me address what I think we can all agree on, the incredible display of democracy in action that we are witnessing in India. Over a 5-week period, nearly 800 million people will go to the polls to elect their leaders. One can argue that India's diversity and growing pains are united by the bedrock of its Constitution, which allows for a liberal democratic order, surely a model for the region. In India, we do continue to have concerns about protection of the human rights of women and minorities and preservation of religious liberties, particularly concerning rights of Christians and others, and I hope we can all also address those concerns today. While I haven't mentioned Nepal or Maldives, which also face important challenges of their own, I hope that our witnesses today will also discuss U.S. priorities in those countries. I'd now like to recognize